Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Found Footage Fridays. My co-host, Tom Raymer.
Hey, guys. Welcome back. Friday night.
Friday night. So, who told me about this one? Oh, you know what it was? It's Jeff, the guy that's always posting about the shark movies and the Blackwell Ghost guy. He posted about this one that we're talking about today, and was like, said it was so much fun, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna pitch this to Tom, and we're gonna see if we can get this.
I remember, you shared that post with me, and it's interesting because when I first read that, I was like, oh, this is a new movie that I haven't heard about before, but it's not new. It's been out since 2018, and just hadn't heard about it. And I'm shocked that this one is not talked about more often.
I am also really shocked. This was the first time I've heard of it. I heard of it as well. So today we are talking the 2018 found footage horror movie Livescream. Which, short synopsis, a horror Let's Player named Scott gets an anonymous fan sends him in a game to play. He plays it live with, a chat group of friends, and things go awry. God, this one was like so fun. As somebody who's like played horror games off and on my whole life, I watch horror Let's Players all the time. Like, I have ones that I specifically watch. This one was like so fun and nostalgic for me.
And so I'm sort of like the opposite for you in that way, and I don't have any experience watching people play any sort of game online. And so when the movie first started, I was like, oh, is this going to be too niche for me? Like, am I going to get this in the way that Angel did? Because I had a real good feeling that you really liked this based on some comments you made. But I really did like it. I really did. Very quickly, I think I knew I was going to like it.
I agree. Well, and it's funny. It's fun because, like, I do think you can appreciate it as someone who doesn't do Let's Plays. But for me, I just got like kicks out of like his like comments about like how many people watch him and like, because there's just some funny little things that I just connected with. And like, I've done a couple of Let's Plays for the channel. I don't have the computer set up to do them right now, otherwise there would be so many more. And it's just thinking about like what it takes and what goes into it. And like, I don't know, it's just like a different thing. But the other thing that I really thought was fun was all the horror game references that were in this.
A lot.
And there's so many, and there's some really big ones. There's some slightly obscure ones. But I think I knew all of them. I'm pretty sure. And it was just like, oh, this is like so fun. I just thought it was like just a really fun movie.
And so, I mean, I probably missed some of those, but like just as a movie, I think I could still enjoy it for what it was. And it was really unique. How it was shot, how basically, without spoiling too much, the movie was done in one take. I think. I don't think they ever.
There's no
cut away from the main guy. So I've never seen a movie, never mind a found footage movie or a horror movie like that. I don't think.
There is one I know of that is done that way, but I don't know if it's just set up like it's done that way or if they actually did it that way, and it's called like One Shot. But it's a horror found footage movie. It's pretty obscure. Like I don't even remember. I think JR from Horror Fiend, who's also, like a found footage junkie, was talking about it, and I ended up watching it, and I wasn't blown away with it overall. But it's done similarly in that they have one opportunity to film, and that's it, and they have to do it all without ever cutting away. And it's just, but it's a completely different setup because this is like a unfriended, a host, a dash cam, kind of setup where we see the square of the game. We see his piece, and then we see the chat. And what's really funny about this is the software they use to show in the recording of the live is the software I used to use when I recorded my Let's Plays. So like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God.
That's
It was,
really, you see, I did not know that.
yeah. So it's a real like I don't think it doesn't show what it is, which is probably there's probably a reason for that. But the control pieces that you see in the beginning, like anyway, so I thought this was a really fun movie.
So there are a few movies that we've seen them use, sort of the chat bar, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought this movie used it the most effectively in that
I
it
agree.
wasn't like a nonstop stream of conversation that you had to keep up with. It was
It was
fairly like slow pace. So like if you
Yep.
went back and watching the main action, you go back and you really didn't miss much
Totally agree.
that was on the left hand side there. And I
Yeah.
want to say like I feel like Deadstream did it and Dashcam did
Oh,
it,
Deadstream too, yeah. Dash cam.
and like those, I think I missed a lot of maybe some of the side
Well,
commentary.
yeah, because it was like thousands of viewers
Right.
versus his was like 200, but only like 4 people were actively talking,
Yeah.
which is more realistic for most of us that are starting out. Yeah, no, this was you're right because when you see it in those other movies, I always feel overwhelmed by it because
I definitely
I'm
did.
like,
Yeah.
am I missing something? How much of it am I supposed to be keeping up with in the chat? If it's like just moving down moving up the screen, I can't keep up with that all. So this is way better as far as being able to keep up with that and what's going on in the other
Absolutely
shows.
agree. Yeah, I felt like I had a hard time staying in those other movies because I was distracted, going back and forth. And this, I did not have that problem.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
thought so I guess I don't want to say too much, but I thought the main guy was really good too.
I agree.
He was awesome.
Yeah. And there are other people in it, but he's really the only one that acts.
Yeah, but I think it's just, yeah, basically just him. Yeah,
Because
you
the
see some other
others is,
faces, but
for different, well, we'll get into that when we get into spoilers.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's really just, yeah, I thought he did a great. I really liked him. I thought he was super believable.
yeah. Especially because he doesn't ever like they don't never cut away. I mean, this is like he does this all in one take. He goes from, you
Yeah.
know, I'm not gonna say more, but yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah. You want to do ratings?
Absolutely.
You want to go first?
All right. Yeah. So this one surprised me, like completely caught me off guard. I think especially because a movie that's been out for 5 years now, that I haven't seen on any list, I haven't seen
Yeah.
anybody talking about.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe it's just not available anywhere, so nobody's watching it. That's the only thing I can think of. It's now
Maybe.
available for rent on Prime, but
Mhm.
I'm just shocked to not hear more people talking about this because I think it's better than many of the movies in this genre, and many of the ones we've talked about on this show, even, which
Totally
is
agree.
sort of nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give this movie an 8.5 tapes out of 10. I think it's really good. It's
Wow.
solid.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad.
He's great. I think it really was totally unique idea. I think the way the movie falls out, it's totally unique.
Hmm.
I think that it's really scary at some parts,
Yeah.
because you
Definitely
really don't
unsettling.
know what's
Yeah.
going on. Just it's so hard to be unique, I think, sometimes in this genre. And we see new takes on found footage all the time, but this
Sure.
felt um, really outside the box, I think. Even though we've seen others, content creators and other
Right.
streamers, live streamers, this felt really different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I don't have I really don't have a lot of, or I don't know that I have anything really negative to say. I really like this one too. I think that the guy that plays Scott, I don't know if that's his real name or not. I didn't look, but
I don't know.
he did a great job. I thought the setup for this was fun. I think it's hard sometimes when you do things like you said, like it is kind of like conceptually it's a very niche kind of thing, but
Yeah,
the way that it's executed makes it still enjoyable for a wider audience. So like people who don't play horror games, who don't watch Let's Players, who aren't Let's Players, are still going to be able to watch this and still have fun with it. Whereas sometimes when it goes too small, it's very hard to get more people interested in it because it gets kind of lost in translation because it's not relatable. But I
right.
think that this balanced it really well. Um, And I think this is another example. We talk all the time about smart filmmaking, seeing too much, not seeing enough, like where that line is. And I think this toes it perfectly. I think they picked and chose the way they wanted to set up this story, and the way that it was executed was great. It wasn't one of those things where I felt like, oh, there should have been more of this, or oh, there was too much of this. I didn't feel that about any piece of this film at all. And so yeah, so I'm also going to give Livescream an 8.5 out of 10
Wow.
takes.
That, that's an awesome rating for this movie combined. Wow. It's deserving of it.
Yes.
It's deserving of it. And
Yeah.
it's, I felt like instantly in this movie, like right away, even with sort of my hesitation about,
Yeah.
being unfamiliar sort of
Oh, sure.
with that sort of thing. I feel like
Yeah.
I instantly was hooked. I, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and so we did rent this. This one we
Yes.
rented.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it's really cheap. It's like $2, I think,
Yeah.
on Amazon. So you can watch Livescream if you have not seen it yet, and you want to check it out before listening to us spoil it. It is available to rent. And $2, I mean, it's an indie film. I mean, I don't mind paying
Yeah.
$2 to support an indie film.
Right.
And it was more than worth it, in my opinion. I mean, I paid $7 to watch Cobweb, and that's not how I felt about that movie. So, I'm just saying, $2. It was really fun for that. And so yeah, so you want to get into spoilers?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what games did you recognize? Did you recognize at
I
least a
mean, I
couple?
don't know. I mean, I just recognize the game they actually mentioned. I don't think I recognize, game anything else,
Okay.
as someone who's not done any sort of gaming in that way.
So the security screens
Yeah.
with the thing that came down the hallway is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay. I
That's
think they
one.
actually mentioned that at some
That's
point.
one of the big
Yeah,
ones.
they name
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that he actually named. Um, there's some. I'm forgetting the name of the zombie one. That's like the one he plays towards the end. But that's one that I haven't played, but I've seen other people play. The one with the statue is another indie game. I can't remember the name of it, but I knew that one. They did. Oh my God, what's the one? Everybody knows this one. Amnesia. There was some Amnesia stuff in it.
Mm.
Amnesia: The Descent, or the Great, whatever it's called. That one, like the cave, the when he's
Yep.
underground. Yeah, it had tons of game references, and it was like when it got to the I think the most mainstream one was the one they named, which is Five Nights at Freddy's. That I think that one's probably one more people would recognize than some of the others, because I think some of the others are more indie based games.
Yeah.
Well, FNAF was technically an indie based game, but it's kind of blown up now. I mean, it's got a movie coming out in October, so it's definitely gotten a lot bigger. Which ironically, so the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy, his name is Scott, which is our main
Okay.
character's name. Yeah, just little fun things like, like that. That's it. So if you are a gamer, if you are a Let's Player, there's going to be a lot of fun things in this for you, I think. But so yeah, so I think the one thing I know for sure I wanted to say is I loved the use of the off-screen kills. Like we don't
Oh yeah.
like it was just this tension, these moments of like they're logged off, and then you've got the one person that knew the other person, so they were like trying to get in touch with them and they couldn't get in touch with them, and there's like this back and forth about, oh my God, is this real? Like I felt all of that was like so well done.
Yeah. The whole idea was that the game was supposed to be, yeah, interactive for, even all the people watching from at home, which
Yeah.
he doesn't get that sort of at first, and then the game basically says, with every life he loses, it's actually going to be, somebody who's watching the game. And yeah, brilliant, in that you don't, only once do you actually see something happen to them,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they die or they're killed off when they log off,
Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So are we to assume that this is a supernatural sort of thing? I assume,
Mm-hmm.
because they never. I mean, there is a point where it's sort of open ended, right? Like, is this some elaborate, trick, or is this
Yeah.
some elaborate? But I think it's supposed to be supernatural. I don't know if
I,
we'd ever know for sure, but
Yeah, I would assume supernatural makes the most sense. Otherwise, I mean, I think you could argue that it is people, like a group of
Mhm.
people, but the level of orchestration that would
It
take
would be a lot.
and the amount of knowledge and like you'd have to be able to hack into everybody's computers and figure out where they live in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it would be too much logistics, to make that happen if it was just people doing it. So I definitely would lean more towards the supernatural side.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something, as for someone who's not played a lot of these games, there was something so um, unnerving as he's just walking around in the game, and you're waiting for something to jump around a corner. Um, it did just worked. I wouldn't have thought it would have, but it really did work. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and I liked that it really did give you the opportunity to experience it as somebody watching a let's play, like which is what you're saying. It's like you're watching him play the game outside of the other stuff, and there's like weird stuff happening in the game, and you're like, oh, like I don't like that part where he's like, I don't know, I don't want to take the heart. I'm not taking the heart. And he turns around and the walls right there, like,
oh,
oh,
I would say another thing that's really was sort of surprisingly well done was that there was more heart and emotion to some of this and some of these characters that you didn't even see or ever hear speak.
yes.
Like the one guy who sort of stays with him to the end, and you get that guy's backstory, right before his end. And, he's someone that was basically saved by watching this guy play games. And
Yeah.
um, he, ba- he volunteers to like sacrifice himself for this guy. And you just that was like a gut wrenching sort of thing that I didn't expect, and I don't even generally expect with a lot of found footage films. Like it was more
Yeah.
raw, just emotion than I think you get with this genre.
Yeah, I actually was really taken aback by this as well. I got really emotional watching it and listening and just like the way he was like as like Scott the player, like how he was responding, it all felt so genuine and it's like it was, I don't know, like yeah, that took me completely by surprise
Yeah.
I mean it's not a I wouldn't say other until up to that point it's not a super serious movie. It's
No.
not funny or comedic, but it's just a little more light than some of the other stuff we've talked about. But this one, like, and so then when it got into that time when it was like taught where he's like, let me just say these things to you, it was just like, oh my God. And then you even have Scott who says, like, you want to know why I'm doing this? Why do I play games for other people? And you're like, and it was a moment of connection I didn't expect to have, like in this movie.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was I would guess the people who made this movie, would you guess, probably have a lot of experience playing games and with this, you know, right? They were fans.
I would be very surprised if they're not part of the Let's Play community because the thing like some of the things that like that main follower was saying is stuff that I see commented on the Let's Players that I watch videos all the time. I look forward to this, you can make me laugh and I'm having like a horrible day and
Yeah.
it's such an interesting like I mean I see that in real life comments to real life Let's Players all the time. So to see it kind of come out like that, they've got to be like people who either do it or watch them, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Um,
be surprised if they weren't.
yeah. And I just would again like really sort of point out how much, in a way, like a tour de force that I thought the performance of that main character. What I couldn't really say before was that like he starts out really it's sort of a lighthearted, comical, like guy playing a game.
Yeah.
He's sort of making fun of himself as he goes along,
Yeah.
and it really does gradually sort of devolve. And you see, like I at one point I almost started asking myself like, was he like did he have that like 5 o'clock shadow at the beginning of the movie? It felt like he really did morph and transform, like physically almost
I would agree.
towards
Yeah.
the end of the movie. And that I think that obviously he didn't actually physically transform, but like he felt like he did. Like his performance was
Yeah.
that strong, and he really did evolve over the course of that movie as things got worse and worse for him. And I thought it was one of the more impressive singular performances that I have seen in found footage. So
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, from like you said, from the lighthearted to the emotional to like when he gets angry, like
yeah,
and then like the way that the movie ends, well, before the post-credit scene, but the way that the movie ends when he like screams, that was like I don't know, like it really just all of it just really just like ranked really high for me. Like I thought it
yeah,
was definitely one of the best performances. And especially like what you said about how like no one's real like this one isn't one we hear a lot about. I cannot
never,
believe that.
never.
Like because
I,
this I feel like this is definitely like a higher standard for a found footage film.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool. I didn't even think of it until just now, but something about this, you can't even point at who the villain is or what the villain is, or you don't ever see the villain. And then there are a lot of movies where you don't see the monster till the very end, or you just sort of see them. You
Mhm.
don't see whoever is behind this. I mean, you see them in the game, like as certain different characters, but you don't actually see the whatever it is. And that's
Yeah.
really effective. Even in the end, you don't know. Something was doing this, but
Yeah.
they don't ever answer that. And that's really kind of cool.
Yeah. So they are potentially making a sequel to this.
Oh,
Um
interesting. Where'd you hear that?
I when I posted about watching it, Jeff commented, or some exchange with him led down this thing of like, oh yeah, and like they're working on like a second one.
I
But I
will
think
definitely
it's
watch that.
a conversation though. I don't think it's anything, like hard
It,
in stone, but
but it definitely it's a kind of concept that works for a second movie,
1,000% it
just
does.
like you may made a thousand Saw movies. You know what I mean? Like
There's
which
always more
yeah,
people to do this to.
of
Like
course, yeah,
and to your point, like because we don't get any answers, the who, the what's, the whys, the whens, the wheres, like it's really open to do whatever it wants to do. And they could continue to do it that way because giving us the answer is probably actually going to be less fulfilling than leaving it as a guess because it's far more scary to see something do this multiple times to multiple however many people and never know where it's coming from,
right,
especially considering all of the friends, the people that he had in the chat, like were from, different areas. And it's like that it could be this like wide open thing that whatever is causing this has access to you no matter where you are.
yeah.
And once you're in, like you're stuck. Like, and I really liked the dynamic of adding the jerk character that got
Oh yeah,
the,
absolutely.
that was really, I thought that was really smart too. I liked that.
That was he was great. Yeah, there's something about it that I just mentioned Saw, but like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of there's something about it that felt a little bit like those movies in that you have a bunch of people playing. Even though you don't see a lot of these characters in this movie, you have a bunch of people playing a game that's being run by some unseen character.
Yeah.
They're all unwilling participants, sort of,
Hmm.
in the game.
Yep.
And this obviously starts different. They think they're actually playing a game at the beginning. But I don't know. It sort of had that. It sort of had a similar. It's not exact, but had a little bit of that in it. I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, yeah, I think that's a really great comparison. The other thing this reminds me of, and mostly just because of the themes, it's not quite similar and it's not found footage, is there is a PG-13 horror movie called Stay Alive.
Have I seen that? I don't know if I have.
It's a really cool, it's a game. Well, it's based around a game. It's a really cool movie. So it's basically about this group of friends. They get this game from somewhere mysterious, and they play it. Well, they make their characters, and then they go, and it's supposed to be, you're solving the mysteries of Elizabeth Bathory, and you're going into this like haunted house in the game, but it has like actual game footage. But then, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
Hmm.
And it's really good. It's one of my favorite movies. Like I absolutely love it. And that's I think actually what started the conversation about Livescream was somebody had posted, or Jeff maybe, or whoever, somebody had posted about the game or horror movies about games or something to that effect. And I always give shout outs to Stay Alive because I think it's really good. It's really creative. It was a really fun. I love that movie. And then he was like, yeah, and Livescream is also on this list and it's really good. And then I was like, Livescream, I haven't heard of that. And then that's kind of how that started. But yeah, it's it reminds me a lot of that one, except that one, like I said, is just shot like a normal, it's not found footage, but the use of the actual game footage I thought was just as impressive in this too, because like they used Unreal Engine to create the game parts. So they had to build those game parts to film this movie.
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's really cool because there's like stock stuff. I don't know that they made anything themselves as far as like actually drawing and creating things, but there's images and locations and stuff that you can use in Unreal Engine to create video games. And that's what they did for all of these games. And I thought that that was even cool too, because when you think about filmmaking is hard, found footage filmmaking is a whole nother level of complexity. And then adding to that, they had to create the video games for him to play in order to make the movie. It's just like,
yeah, really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive. And I mean, just as a side note, love the title, Livescream. I don't know, it got me right away. Like,
I know. It just kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does. But I hope sort of, we're going to be talking this up, and maybe we'll share this, to some of the found footage forums out there, because I really, really feel like people who are eating up this genre, if they haven't seen this one, they're gonna love it. Like, I'm confused and don't exactly understand why it's been so under the radar for so long. 5 years.
I don't know either. I'm really surprised by it too, because I was really, not that I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be crummy, but I definitely didn't think I was going to be like, oh, I love this. But I literally, like, I think like 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, sold. Like, I wasn't even that far into it. And I was like, I absolutely love this so much. Like, it's one I would easily revisit.
Very cool. I mean, okay. So I think Host is great, right?
Yeah.
But like, people lose their minds over that movie. Mm-hmm. Is this movie not as good as that? I think we've never reviewed Host on this show, by the way.
We haven't
done it yet.
It didn't make it in the brackets for our live.
I feel like if that movie has all the love, probably warranted that it does. What is it? This movie at least as good as that movie? I think it is.
I think it is too.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, I think it's I really loved it. Like you said, it's super creative. It's very different. They were careful with how they did this. I mean, we don't see very much. It's all situational or circumstantial horror. It's all psychological. It's all this off-screen stuff. And I just think that that's a really risky thing to try to accomplish, but they nailed it. Like, they just did a great job.
Yeah.
So,
go watch it.
I really like this one a lot.
I really want to hear people think about this, because I don't really know many other people that have seen this one.
Yeah. Hopefully people will watch it after we start posting about it.
Hope so.
Yeah. Because I think it's worth the $2, genuinely. Like,
easily.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well.
All right. Livescream.
On Livescream. What are we doing next week?
Resurrected? Is that what it's called? Resurrected. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the exact title. So
yeah, Resurrected, the 2023 film that just came out like a couple weeks ago.
Can't wait to talk about that one. That's another really unique movie we're going to be talking about.
Totally agree. And if you want to watch it before next week's episode, it is on Tubi for free.
Go check it out.
You can watch it. So, all right. Well, that's it for this episode of Found Footage Fridays. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your week coming up. And Tom and I will see you next week.
See you then.